This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What is going on, everybody? Guys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the good old WWE Podcast. As always, I am the host of this show, Michael Ritter. You can find me on X at Michael5Ritter, on Instagram at MichaelRitter5, and also the host of the Football Function Podcast, available on all of your podcasting platforms, including the one that you're listening to this show on, and also available on Patreon if you prefer an ad-free listening experience. I am coming to you on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, to talk about the SmackDown that aired on Friday, March the 1st, 2024. Now, there's not going to be a Stack 'em Up Saturday this week or next week. I'll explain why. But I did get a suggestion. So in the coming weeks, we will get into the top 5 theme songs that was suggested by Grim Reaper. So I've done this before. It's probably been like over 3 years since I've done the top 5 theme songs. So I don't think it's going to be an issue to get an updated list out. But I do know that for some of you longtime listeners, you may remember the top 5 theme songs episode I did. I also did one for the Ruthless Aggression era. I just focused on those specific theme songs. So looking forward to getting into another Stack 'em Up Saturday. But I don't think I'm going to need one this week, because of all of the juicy things that took place on this episode of SmackDown. It felt different. Number one, the opening segment took 40 minutes, and we'll kind of break it down exactly what was said, what we can learn from this and gain from it, because I truly do believe that there were maybe some turns in this that I didn't expect. And then we'll get through all of the other things that took place on SmackDown. But before we do that, the reason why there's not going to be a Stack 'em Up Saturday next week is because I am going to be live in Dallas, Texas for next week's episode of SmackDown. So every single time that The Rock was mentioning to Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, he was addressing them in his promo earlier, come to SmackDown next week in Dallas, and then we'll get your answer. Give us your answer next week. I couldn't help but get more and more excited. And I kind of expected some big things to happen at that episode of SmackDown for multiple reasons. Number one, the tickets that I was looking for just a few short weeks ago, probably around mid to early February. I don't know exactly when I had the tickets in my cart, but I was looking for some tickets in the 100 sections, meaning, the lower level, and they were around $250 a piece. So I thought, that's not that bad, honestly. Like, whenever you're thinking about where your view is going to be, the fact that this is on the road to WrestleMania, it's going to be a great show regardless. So I was like, man, like $250 for that great of a seat, it's really not that bad. That's actually a pretty good deal. So I kind of put a little bit of a bookmark there, and I tabled those tickets, and I said, all right, I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to kind of let things play out, and then I'll come back and I'll get these tickets. And sure enough, this past week, I want to say either Tuesday or Wednesday, probably Wednesday, but one of the days, I went back to SeatGeek. That's where I get my tickets. I've always kind of used SeatGeek for my NFL games, any type of wrestling event that I go to. It's just where I go to first. And, I was looking for the same tickets. And, of course, they were there still, but not for the same price that they were. In fact, the $250 tickets had jumped up to roughly $460 to $530, like just for, tickets that are pretty much in the same row, but maybe just, a section over with a slightly better view or angle, I guess, maybe point of view of the ring. So you get a little bit of a discount. And I was like, well, I'm not very interested in dropping $500 per ticket, because it's not just me. I have to buy 3 tickets to this SmackDown. So I was like, okay, let's go look around. Let's go look elsewhere. And sure enough, the entire stadium just skyrocketed. Every single ticket had jumped up over a couple $100. And I ended up settling on some tickets that were around the same price. The tickets that I, had initially found were $251. The ones that I ended up buying were $254 each, but the location is very different. Like, I'm in the 300 sections now, so I'm not even in the middle, I don't think. Now, I'm not at the very tip top. I made sure that I didn't want to be like in row N or something like that in whatever section I'm in. I'm in row B, but I am in that higher section. So hopefully the view's still going to be pretty good. I'm taking my girlfriend's son, who is a diehard wrestling fan. This is going to be his very first wrestling show. Like, he has more wrestling figures than I do, and I have a shelf in here with WWE championships and, wrestling action figures where I'm in like the mid to high 70s. I'm pretty sure he's in the mid to high 80s at this point. Like, he has a lot of wrestling action figures, and he's only been collecting for probably like 5 or 6 months. Definitely nothing, like I have for the past few years now. So he's without a doubt going to surpass me in his collection. But that just goes to show how big of a fan he is. Like, he loves Cody Rhodes. He loves Rey Mysterio. He loves Randy Orton. He's convinced that Edge is his tag team partner. I'm not really sure where he got that, but he is pretty sold on that, and that's just, what he believes. So this is going to be his very first show, and it's hard not to be a little bit jealous. My first show that I ever went to, just, a peek behind the curtain here, was in like 1997, 1998, here in Amarillo, Texas, my hometown, the Civic Center, where literally WWE still comes from time to time, except it was a WCW show. I've gone on record saying I was a WCW guy in the 90s, not necessarily by choice, but because I was a very small child, so I didn't get to choose exactly which wrestling program my parents put on the TV. Just so happened to be WCW, and I mean, it's no secret, WCW was a great product in the mid to late 90s, so I was a huge fan, and I got to touch Sting that day. I got to see Booker T go one-on-one for the World Heavyweight Championship against Diamond Dallas Page in the main event. So that show really wasn't, nothing to sneeze at by any means, but it wasn't a televised event on the road to WrestleMania. I didn't go to my first televised event until 2017, whenever I went to the Royal Rumble, and I didn't go to my next one after that until 2021, whenever, COVID ended, and the very first live show in front of fans was a SmackDown in Houston, Texas, and I was, in the crowd there, and there was a celebrity in my section, and, I'm not going to say the celebrity's name because this is a PG show, but she's an actress, let's just say that. But I remember that show very vividly. It's where I learned that, signs, whenever fans bring signs to shows, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, if you're sitting behind someone who has a sign and they're holding it up for the, the entirety of the show, you literally just wasted your money because you're not going to be able to, have a good view of the show. I literally gave up my seat, which was on the floor, the floor seats. I was probably like row 12, 13, whatever. Like, I only had to buy my ticket at the time, so it's not like I had 3 to pay for. I was very much willing to, all right, I'm going to sit as close as I could possibly, get here, but I literally gave that seat up, and I walked up, and I sat in like the mid section, just an empty row. I was like, is anyone sitting here? Cool, I have my ticket stuck in my pocket. If somebody starts complaining about me taking their seat, I'll say, here you go take my floor seat there on the ground. I just wanted to have a good view of the show because I had to go join Matt that night. I had to join Matt on the WWE podcast for like an in-person experience for the first show post-COVID, and I remember I was sick. Like, I thought that I had COVID at the time because the pandemic had just ended, and I went to In-N-Out Burger, and I got a burger, I got a drink, and I remember getting a root beer, and I took a drink, and I could not taste it. And I was like, oh, man, like, come on, this cannot be happening here. I got the burger, took the burger back to my hotel room. I ate that, and trust me, I tasted every single bit of that. So I didn't have COVID, but I did have, like my sinuses were acting up before I even left, and I flew to Houston. So I had like a stuffed up nose. It was kind of like a pretty bad experience. And then I flew. And if any of you guys have flown before, you know that like your ears and like the pressure that's in your head makes it really difficult for like your ears to pop and things like that. And there's a lot of pressure up there. So you have like a sinus infection, or if your sinuses are acting up and you multiply it times that experience, it makes it terrible. Like, I could not pop my ears for probably like 5 days. Whenever I finally did, it hurt like hell. It wasn't until I was already on my way back. But I literally couldn't breathe out of my nose, and I was speaking like with a headset on. So it was just a terrible audio experience for anybody who listened to that show. I remember listening to it, and just I could tell that I was sick, and it was just awful. And then fast forward, like I said, that was July 2021 to February 2022. I went to another SmackDown in OKC on the road to WrestleMania 38, and then I went to WrestleMania 38, which was one of the best experiences of my entire life, getting a chance to see Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was a bucket list wrestler that I hadn't gotten a chance to see yet. Spoiler alert, I haven't gotten a chance to see The Rock either, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that next week, just to kind of check that off the list as well. But, since then, I've been to shows, and I've been to these televised events, for a long-winded way to get here is I'm excited to take my girlfriend's son to his very first wrestling event, because I know he's going to remember it. He's only 6 years old, diehard wrestling fan. I've already gotten him a cameo of like a WWE wrestler saying his name, because that's the thing is he likes to say, and the winner of this match is Jet the Threat, because his name is Jet, and his wrestling name is Jet the Threat. So I got the referee to say, and here is your winner, Jet the Threat. And, that was pretty cool. He's loving that. He's going to love this experience. And I'm definitely looking forward to taking him there to the American Airlines Center, home of the Dallas Mavericks. But you guys did not come here to hear about my history of live events. You guys came here for, the SmackDown review, and that's exactly what we're going to get into. So I do want to thank you guys for tuning in here to this show. This is going to be my 185th SmackDown review. So I am getting up there in terms of, the show total. And, I'm proud to be a part of this prestigious team. Like, I know that we're not everybody's cup of tea. Not everyone's going to come to the WWE podcast and be like, ooh, I absolutely love that show and all the hosts that are there and the community that they've built. But for those of you that do appreciate what we've built here, specifically Matt, I'm not going to take any credit from him. I'm just simply a member of the relay team that's trying to keep this thing rolling here, but I am very proud to be a small part of it. So, and especially when we get to this time of the year, you get into the WrestleMania season, every show, every promotion is trying to put their best foot forward. It's just a great time to be a wrestling fan. So I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. But this is going to be talking about, like I mentioned, the SmackDown that aired on March 1st, 2024 from Glendale, Arizona. I'm sure we all found out a little bit about Glendale that we might not have known thanks to The Rock, because he said that he was going to, say some gospel. He said that he was going to preach to the people in attendance and, the millions of people watching around the world, and he did just that. Like, this was some A1 stuff, a clinic, textbook in terms of promo, like for Roman Reigns and, Solo and Jimmy Uso to just kind of be standing there in the ring while The Rock was going on his, his tangent. I'm sure they were like, man, this is a master of work. It's almost effortless the way that he was doing that. I can't wait to get into some of the things that he was saying. But, The Rock has been going crazy the past few days. Let's not forget about the 21-minute video that he posted where he was just, going at Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins and kind of explaining a little bit behind the scenes as to why he doesn't like how Cody Rhodes handled things. It's worth a watch. Only 21 minutes of your time. It's like an episode of The Office or something like that. So you can definitely, squeeze that in, because The Rock, he's preaching. Like, he really is. He says, I'm going to lay some gospel, but that's exactly what he's doing. And I'm sure that, Paul Heyman, someone who can also cut a promo with the best of them, was in admiration of what The Rock was doing there. But let's go ahead and get into it. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline open the show. Of course, we get an opening Elimination Chamber video package plus the Roman Reigns entrance. So that right there took up 9.5 minutes. So almost 1/4 of this massive 40-minute opening segment of SmackDown. So that kind of just set the stage for what we can expect here for this opening segment, although I still did not expect it to go all the way up to 40 minutes. But Roman Reigns starts by telling the crowd to acknowledge him. He actually says it several times, because the first few times, their reaction wasn't quite up to his standards. And after he shouts it for the final time, he tries to flat out leave. He says that he's already, fulfilled his obligation. He'll get on the jet and he'll get the hell out of there right now. But before he can leave, he's stopped by the special counsel, Paul Heyman, who tells him that he can't leave because after the commercial break, The Rock would be showing up. And that's exactly what happened. Now, up to this point, the broadcast was great, perfectly fine. There was no interruptions. It seemed like there was no technical difficulties. But as soon as The Rock comes out, we get multiple blackouts, probably like 10 total or something like that within the next like 20 minutes. So it was pretty distracting, pretty annoying. It definitely like cut a few of his lines short. You weren't able to hear the punchline on a couple of, things he was trying to say. But I have seen from the internet, the reliable internet, that the reason for these blackouts is because there was a sign in the crowd of a fan who wrote, "Die, Rocky, die." Now, I'm not someone that's going to get upset and think, oh, that's too far. You shouldn't be doing that. It's wrestling. Like, do what you got to do as a wrestling fan. But if it comes down to you affecting everybody else's, viewing experience, like because of your stupid sign, we had to have the show blacked out multiple times. Like, that's whenever you should get a super kick right in the face. Like, come on. Like, all right, do what you got to do as long as you're not affecting anybody else. But the fact that multiple people weren't able to enjoy this Rock promo for at least a little bit of it because of all those blackouts, like, yeah, we should shove the sign down your throat is what I'm trying to say. Like, don't be an idiot in those situations. And also, after the first like 3 or 4 blackouts, does WWE not have someone in the arena that go confiscate that crap? Like, yeah, dude, get out of here. And if you want to, kick them out of the arena. Like, that's pretty much how I feel about it. But at the very least, just take the sign, go on with business, let them enjoy their show. They spent money on their ticket too. But it's just one of those things where as it was going on, and I already knew why, because I watched SmackDown this morning on Saturday, and I saw the tweet last night. So I'm like, okay, well, SmackDown is going to be dealing with some blackouts, and I'm going to try to get through that. But as, I was watching it and trying to soak in and take notes for this Rock promo, I was like, all right, whoever has that sign, someone, in the crowd, take one for the team and give them a nice slap in the mouth. But anyways, The Rock comes out and he takes major shots at Phoenix. Like, holy crap. I mean, he points out that they're the number 1 city for cocaine and meth use, and I did not expect him to go there. Like, honestly, it's a PG show, I thought. Like, he was just legitimately, he's like, Phoenix, like, we're in Glendale, 10 miles from, Phoenix, and everyone's popping, the crowd's loving it. He's addressing the hometown. And out of nowhere, he just really comes from the top rope. Like, I did not expect that. He even calls them, quote unquote, cactus-loving crackheads. Like, man, he was not pulling any punches here. He points out that the Bloodline is happy. They're all in a very good mood, even Solo. You might not be able to tell by looking at him, but that's his happy face. And he actually almost got Solo to break character there. It was, genuinely funny the way that The Rock can kind of talk to Solo. And, like, Solo's gimmick, his whole shtick, the enforcer, that doesn't work with The Rock. Like, nobody is going to believe Solo Sikoa tries to bow up to The Rock. Not only that, isn't the dude on like a 20-match losing streak or something like that, if you count live events? Like, dude, you haven't gotten a win in 2024 yet. So, yeah, no one's going to really take you that serious, especially as, like, this quote-unquote enforcer. But The Rock himself is even happy because he says that for the first time in decades, wrestling is cool again. It's quote-unquote electrifying again. And then he references the recent sellouts in Birmingham, Salt Lake City. He calls Phoenix a crack den with popcorn. But then he even mentions the coming weeks like Dallas and Memphis. Those are also sellouts too. So, I mean, SmackDown doing very well, packing the houses. The Rock clarifies that just because pro wrestling is cool, that doesn't mean everyone involved in it is cool, especially Cody Rhodes. He then denies the challenge that Cody made at Elimination Chamber to face The Rock. He says that that's not how the real world works. You don't get to just go one-on-one with the great one because you want to. Everybody wants to go one-on-one with The Rock. And then points out that every woman in the arena wants to go one-on-one with The Rock, right before he calls them crackhead Karens and methhead Marys, was just another, hilarious pull from The Rock. Like, dude, he was saying he had his fastball tonight is selling him short. Like, this is one of the best promos I've seen in like a decade. I'm being completely honest there. This was literally from the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like, this was something that he pulled from the vault, like an old school version of Rock, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'm not even the biggest Rock fan. But being the businessman that he is, he raises Cody's one-on-one challenge with a tag team match on the first night of WrestleMania. Cody and Seth versus Roman and The Rock. But it's not an ordinary tag match. There are going to be some stipulations. The Rock says that if Cody and Seth can defeat the Bloodline at WrestleMania, then their match in the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania will be quote-unquote free of the Bloodline. But if they lose, then it's Bloodline rules. And then he starts to list some possibilities of, what that could mean, such as Jimmy being a special guest referee, The Rock sitting at ringside with a steel chair, the Wise Man breaking out a steel chair, or even Solo Sikoa singing the national anthem, which was on, a very hilarious visual. Got some solo chants going there from the crowd. But then he says that if they don't accept the challenge, then he will do everything in his power to make sure that they lose their championships. And there's not a man in WWE that could stop him because he's on the board. And that's whenever the crowd breaks out in a very loud Triple H chant, which makes me really sad that we're very likely, like 99.9% sure, never going to get a Triple H match again. But man, the idea of him and The Rock finishing what they started a long, long time ago at WrestleMania 40, that would be one for the ages. But obviously, don't even, that's just simply me fantasy booking and saying what I would love to see happen. I know that there's no shot in that happening. So don't come for me saying, oh, that's definitely, completely out of the realm of possibility. I know, trust me. But The Rock tells Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins to meet them in Dallas, Texas next week and give them their answers. Then he proceeds to do his signature, "If you smell what The Rock is cooking," but before he could finish, he's stopped by Roman Reigns, who grabs a microphone and says that he needs something from The Rock. He needs him to acknowledge him. And the crowd loses it. They're wondering what is going to happen here. Me, myself, was like, this is interesting. And obviously, The Rock takes off his sunglasses, looks him in the eyes, and says, "Roman Reigns, my family, I acknowledge you as my tribal chief." And then the crowd erupts in "You sold out" chants. He explains that this is family, and we will do anything for family. Now go home and smoke some more crack. The way that he ended it, the way that he started it by referencing crack, oh my gosh, this was so, I'm not going to lie, this was hilarious. I'm sorry if you live in Phoenix. I have nothing against, people in Phoenix. We all remember the Suns in 4 guy a couple years back whenever the Suns went to the finals, and he was knocking people out in the crowd. So I'm sure that guy's probably a pro wrestling fan himself, maybe. But yeah, The Rock was just great. I'm actually kind of nervous. The fact that I'm going to be there next week in Dallas, Texas. I'm wondering what he's going to say about Texas. We all remember what Kevin Owens was saying up to his Stone Cold Steve Austin match. He was crapping on Texas for months. I expect The Rock to really let us have it. And please do not hold back. I would love to be able to say that, yeah, I was in the crowd that night. The Rock came back, and he absolutely obliterated the state of Texas. I would love that. It definitely makes me understand why they raised the tickets, because the fact that we're going to get Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, many, many other people, yeah, I would raise the ticket prices as well. So that was just a great way to start it. But one thing I will say is this is the first little wedge, because everyone's saying The Rock is playing, double agent. The Rock is really going deep undercover to make this work. They're pointing out, again, when he holds up the 1, how he has his thumb out and he's doing the L at first. We'll see. I already told you guys how I feel about that. I did think y'all were reaching a little bit, but I was wrong about something else that we'll talk about here a little bit later. But the way that Roman Reigns stopped him and he even said, "I need you to acknowledge me," that kind of just plants a seed right there. Even the way that Paul Heyman was looking at The Rock, it does seem like maybe there's a little bit more to this. And maybe the fans are onto something. The ones that are kind of predicting that this is all a work and The Rock is actually against Roman Reigns, they could be onto something. I'm not going to completely rule it out now, because at this point, I wouldn't be shocked if The Rock turns on Roman Reigns. And it's just interesting. It really is, to say the least. The Rock could absolutely screw over Roman, which would set up a wild dynamic for the second night of WrestleMania. But we'll go ahead and continue that, the next time we talk about The Rock and Roman, because the next time we do that, I'll be there, so I'll have a much different opinion. Or maybe not a different opinion, but maybe a more thorough opinion, and I'll be able to actually digest what's going on here. But continuing on in the show, LA Knight is shown backstage looking for AJ Styles. He checks the backstage locker room where Theory and Waller are having a good laugh, watching highlights from the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. They get to the part in the show where Randy Orton got knocked out, thanks to the brass knuckles by Logan Paul, and they start to make fun of him too. And then unfortunately for them, they don't see Randy Orton standing right behind them, who walks up and challenges them, one of them, to a match. Doesn't matter who it is, just one of you guys go to the ring and, I'll show you just how funny I really am. This was some great stuff by Randy Orton too. I will say, maybe I was just not grading hard and I was just actually enjoying the show, but I felt like as far as comedy goes, Randy Orton, he's not somebody we get it from all that often, but we definitely got it from him in this segment. And, a lot of people made the comparison, myself included, John Cena and Austin Theory. Like, oh, they really, he really reminds me of John Cena, the way the Theory kind of come up, out of NXT and on the main roster just early in his days. I'm starting to see a little bit of Randy Orton in him too, now that I'm thinking about it. Just the arrogance that Randy Orton literally had, like it wasn't a character. Back in like 2004, 2005, Randy Orton was a legitimate a-hole. And I feel like I kind of get those vibes from Austin Theory. We'll see these two go one-on-one later on in the night, but that's just one thing I kind of pointed out. I was like, man, Theory does kind of remind me of a younger Orton. I wonder if Orton sees a little bit of himself in Austin Theory. But continuing on here, Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton steals the win with a prettiest moonsault ever after scraping the eyes of Naomi. I saw a lot of fans were pretty pissed off that Naomi took the loss here. They didn't even get a chance to see her enter the ring because, her entrance was during the commercial break. So they feel like she's jobbing to a rookie. Just pump the brakes a little bit. She just got back. She's been, used prominently up until this point, I feel like. Yeah, she got eliminated by Stratton in the Royal Rumble, and now she loses to her. But it's not like she lost clean. It's not like it was a squash match. Like there was a commercial break during this match. So clearly it went on for some time. And, I just think that Tiffany Stratton is the right person to win this match. I don't think that it's, it's far-fetched to think that Stratton can beat Naomi at this point in their careers. But, a lot of people really weren't happy with that. So we'll see if it continues or if Naomi gets a little bit more positive outcomes in her matches. We'll touch back on that. Anyways, up next we get the Kabuki Warriors versus Bayley and Dakota Kai, and the fix is in. Dakota Kai turns on Bayley, and it's Damage Control beatdown after the match on Bayley, and as Damage Control is walking backstage arrogantly, they're stopped in their tracks by Jade Cargill, so we'll kind of see what, comes from that. But first things first, I was wrong. I am going to fully admit that. Last week, I was like, I don't think that we have to worry about Dakota turning on Bayley. I think that, that's a whole nother layer that they don't need to pull. But, hey, they did it, and it did make this storyline go deeper. So I was wrong there, and I fully anticipate me probably being wrong about The Rock and Roman Reigns too. But that's the beauty of this, is WWE is continuing to swerve us. Like, they really are. Shout out to Triple H. This long-term storytelling, man, it's brilliant stuff. But I will say Dakota Kai did not do herself any favors. It's probably going to be tough for her to turn babyface now going forward, so she might as well just embrace that heel roll because that's probably where she's going to be for the foreseeable future. But right there in Damage Control, like, it makes sense. Like, Bayley was kind of like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole in that group. Yeah, she was the leader, but I feel like with all of this collection of talent now, with the Kabuki Warriors having Dakota Kai, who's cleared to wrestle, she was in this tag team match, I think that this group still has a lot of juice left to be squeezed. So, we'll see what happens there, obviously, with the whole Dakota Kai now having to answer to Bayley going forward. That's probably going to be the first person she goes one-on-one with. But Io Sky needs to watch it, because if she does walk away with that championship, there's a good chance she's going to run into somebody by the name of Jade very, very soon. Moving on, we get Braun Breaker versus Zion Quinn. Apparently, he's an NXT wrestler. I've never seen him nor heard of him, but this match is about 4 or 5 seconds, and that's counting the 1, 2, 3. Like, including the pinfall, which is 3 seconds, this match was about 5 seconds long. One spear, and that's it. This bad boy was over. And, yeah, I guess I expected it because it's Braun Breaker, but I thought that because it wasn't like a local talent, that it was actually an NXT wrestler, that they might give this guy a little bit of offense. Like, even if it's just one little series of punches, like Braun Breaker gets you in the corner, he's punching you, you kind of get a little bit of an edge, thumb to the eye maybe. You do something that kind of puts you on top, and we have to see Braun Breaker overcome something, but he didn't have to overcome anything in this match. It was a very easy day's work for him, and I'm sure that he enjoys that type of day at the office. But we get a street fight up next, Carlito versus Santos Escobar, and I'm sure that the thing that everybody's noticing here is that chair shot to the head. Tell me I'm not the only one that saw that and that was alarmed by that. Not in a bad way. I think that if you do it safely like they did, Santos and Carlito, headshots with steel chairs, they are very impactful, not just to the wrestler, but to the viewer who's watching the match. Like, it does something to me whenever I'm watching a match and I see somebody get whacked with a steel chair. Like, I'm not saying, ooh, I start salivating from the mouth or something like that. I'm just simply saying that it adds a twist to the match. and it does almost bring a sense of nostalgia. So if you can do it safely, then yeah, let's do this. But obviously, I'm not advocating for real steel chairs to just be swung at full force against somebody's skull like we've seen for decades. There's safe ways that you can do this type of thing, and I think Carlito and Santos proved that. I'm not sure if it was meant to happen. It seemed like it was, but yeah, that was something that I definitely wrote down here. I didn't expect to see a chair shot to the head just while I'm watching SmackDown in 2024. But as you would expect, LWO and LDF both interfere, but the one thing that we didn't expect was a returning Rey Mysterio who came ready to fight, using those crutches as weapons, and he aided Carlito to a win here. The LWO and LDF, they're just going to have to continue this slow little build until we get like a 5-on-5, 4-on-4 type of match at WrestleMania, probably on night one. Like if we were to get Angel Garza, Humberto Carrillo, and Elektra Lopez, along with Santos Escobar, to go up against Carlito, Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, and Zelina Vega, we could, like, say Rey Mysterio is still not medically cleared. Like, he can come beat the hell out of people, but not cleared for an actual match. We could get that 4-on-4 mixed gender match that, would be, fitting for WrestleMania. We've seen gender matches before, right? Didn't we get Trish Stratus and Chris Jericho versus Lita and Christian or something like that? I forgot exactly what we got, but something like that on WrestleMania 20. I know that Trish was involved for sure because that's whenever she turned on Jericho and she entered her probably the darkest era in her career, if I'm, being honest there. But shout out to Carlito for getting the win here. Moving backstage, we get Nick Aldis. He's approached by New Catch Republic. They're just pointing out like, hey, we feel like we kind of got screwed out of the tag team championships. We want something to happen. We want to go to WrestleMania and fight for these belts. Nick Aldis says that he and Adam Pearce are working to come to a resolution regarding the tag team titles, and they'll have an announcement very, very soon. I expect them to just split them again, probably. Like, at the very least, we need to condense them and make only, 2 belts. We don't need to have the red and the blue. Like, that was a fun era. It was fun whenever we had the Raw titles and the SmackDown titles, but that era's over. We no longer see we don't see the red Raw Women's Championship or the blue SmackDown Women's Championship, the Universal title that has a specific color. We're past that colorful era. It's a little tough one to spit out there. And we're into this new era. So, yeah, if you're going to condense them, let's just make one championship. But, dude, I'm sitting here looking right now at the World Tag Team Championship belts that used to be held on Monday Night Raw, specifically by like the Dudleys, La Resistance, Kane and RVD held these titles. Like those, I know you know which ones I'm talking about because there was a pair on SmackDown, the WWE Tag Team Championships, that were held by, the Guerreros, the Basham brothers, amongst many, many other tag teams. I feel like you need to get back to history. Like you need to lean on history to usher in this new era of tag team wrestling. But even if not, even if you have a completely new belt with a big fat WWE logo in the middle, I still think that you can make it work and, it would look dope. But I think that you do need two tag team belts. Like they've done it in the past. The roster's deeper than it's ever been. You could do it now as well. Just one set of tag team belts whenever you're supposed to have a brand split clearly is not enough. But let's get to this main event, shall we? Randy Orton versus Austin Theory. We get Kevin Owens on commentary, Grayson Waller at ringside. One thing I wanted to point out here is whenever Randy Orton was coming out, the announcer said weighing in at 275 pounds. And, Randy Orton, he mouthed it with the announcer, and he wanted to make sure that we knew that. That's pretty crazy, right? 275 pounds for Randy Orton, and he still looks pretty damn skinny. Number one, it tells you how great of shape he's in, that he's making 275 pounds look skinny. Like, he makes it look muscular, and he makes it look damn good. Like, shout out to Randy Orton, because I'd be proud of that too, man. 275 pounds, and you got abs? Like, yeah, that's very, very impressive. But as far as this match goes, there were some impressive moments too. There was a scary spot. It looked like a botch that, they were in the top or the corner of the ring, on the turnbuckle. Austin Theory was on the top. It looked like Randy Orton slipped. Austin Theory still jumped, but both of these guys reacted well. Like, they reacted in the moment and they made it work, and everybody left safe, which is, all that matters at this point. We saw Austin Theory have a little bit of a scare not that long ago with him and Carmelo Hayes. So I'm glad that he's able to react like a veteran and take care of his opponent as well as himself. So great moment there. Randy Orton does win with an RKO. And then a 2-on-2 brawl ensues after the match where Austin Theory got a stunner, and he sold it better than I've seen someone sell a stunner in so damn long, probably since The Rock. Like, that was a hell of a sell. Go look it up if you haven't seen it, because Kevin Owens just hit that stunner, and he literally jumped up probably like 3 or 4 feet. Like, brilliant stuff. It looks like he had springs in his legs. But that does do it for us here. That is the episode of SmackDown in its entirety. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, I probably won't be here next week. I will figure out a way to get the SmackDown review to you guys one way or the other, whether I record it from Dallas or if I have somebody fill in for me. There's several things that could happen. But I do want to thank you guys for tuning in every single week. It means the world to me. I know Matt appreciates it as well. So, it's all good here. And definitely let me know if there's any feedback you guys have, any ways I can improve this show. I will definitely take that into consideration and, do what I can to keep the listener happy, because that's what it's all about here. But thank you guys so much. I will definitely be talking to you guys about what happened in Dallas next week, whether I'm here or not. The next time I come on the SmackDown review, I'm looking forward to talking about what transpired in the American Airlines Center. So one more time, thank you guys so much. Have a damn good rest of your weekend and a good week. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.